Hi, everyone. Welcome back to episode 4 of Between the Stars with me, Madison Ashley. And I'm so excited because I have my best friend here. Who are you?
I'm Isa. I'm Isabella Lapercio. Maddie and I have been friends for 4 years now, almost
I
5 years,
5 years.
going on 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
It's
been,
been a long time.
yeah, it's been a while and a lot of different stages of life.
A lot of different stages of life. But that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm really so excited to have her as a guest. I'm excited that you're my first guest on the podcast. I think it's just important to have these conversations, especially when it comes to community, when it comes to friendships. I think when people think of just like the Christian life, they're just like, I'm single and then I'm married. And it's like there's so many other relationships that you're going to be dealing with and working through constantly as you're single, as you're dating, as you're married, and all of it in between. And it's so important to touch upon what those friendships look like. How do we develop these friendships? What are things that are going to incur or happen in these friendships? And how do you work through them, right? And we mentioned that we've seen each other in so many different phases.
Yeah.
And a little bit of our story, we became friends our freshman year of college. At this point, like, you were a Christian, you were a believer, and you were saved, and I was not. I grew up Catholic, but I just knew there was a God, and that was the end, and I was living my life. And I think we went through a lot. We went through a lot of just like challenges of like being 18, being young, not knowing how to handle certain situations. Like living together added such a big responsibility to that too. But I think, and it's something that I talk about a lot, like, I was not a believer. And the one thing I think I appreciated from you and our other roommate who was there was never a sense of judgment.
Yeah.
And I think that was like the biggest thing that I think ended up leading me into my own walk without something that I recognized was the importance of that. The importance of, like, especially for the younger generation, the kids that, like, we see at Wave, specifically, like, what it is to, like, have your faith, right? Have your faith and bring it into these situations, into these relationships with people. And it's not about forcing it down. It's not about judging what they're doing, but truly just, like, letting his spirit always guide the choices and how that does reflect to other people. But with that too, I think there was always a sense between both of us to crave vulnerability and trust.
Yeah.
Even when it was scary.
No, I definitely agree. I think going into college, my dad always told me that don't get your role confused with God's. And so I think that when I entered this space of college, it was always an invitation. It was always like, hey, we're going to church on Sunday. If you would like to join, you can. Right. And it was praying about these people that I was inviting, right? But not pressuring, because my job isn't to sit there and convict you about what I feel like you're doing is wrong, right? Whether that's aligned with the Bible or not, that's not my job. And so I was just being diligent in inviting you. And I think also living by example. I think that Christians like overlook that so easily. They're like, well, it says this and we do this, but if you just live by example, so many people's behaviors or attitudes or what they do will just adjust when you walk into a room, because they'll be like, oh, that person doesn't do that, or that person doesn't stand for that. So I think that was like a huge like starting point. And I think that also led into us just accepting each other for where we're at, right? We're meeting each other where we were when we met each other. We didn't have to sit there and exaggerate or be something that we weren't,
or nitpick things that bothered us.
Right.
No, I agree. I think really like seeing where someone is and just like, this is where they're at, and loving them in that, and working with them through that, and not about like, you need to be this perfect friend and it needs to be like this and it needs to be like that. It's like, no, there has to be a sense of like, you have to release control of your own desires, even within friendships, because like, we all have free will. So the same way you have free will, the other person has free will to act how they're going to act and be how they're going to be and say the things that they're going to say. And that's where, like, being raw and vulnerable and taking a second to listen and not speak so quick,
right,
to just really like, okay, how can I hear this person? How can I listen to this person? And what are they trying to convey and say? And how can I support them and still talk and even educate in a sense? Because I think there's plenty of times where most of our frustrations came from just like, oh, this person's not seeing me this way, or like seeing what I'm seeing. And it was like both of us being able to stop and listen and focus and put each other in each other's perspective of life.
Right. I definitely think that listening aspect is so important. I don't think you ever understand somebody if you never take the time to actually sit down and listen to them. I think people say a lot without saying a lot. What they say, how they act says a lot about what's in their heart. And so if you just take that moment to see people where they are, then I feel like you can reach people so much easier than jumping to conclusions that they're like this or acting like this, so this must be this, and just assuming off of the bat.
You just have to choose people, and you have to just love them. And there's almost like this unconditional love, right? It's not about allowing them to push your boundaries. There is a big difference.
Right.
But it's about knowing who this person is, and it's like, well, I still love you. And don't get me wrong, I think we both, even to this day, frustrate each other so much of just like, girl, why are you doing that? Like, and even as we lived together, like those things occurred. And it's so funny because I feel like when I talk to people about it, they're like, why don't you just tell her? And I'm like, well, it's not that serious. Like there's things where that we deal with that we need to talk about. And then there's little things where I'm like, but that is just Issa.
Yeah.
Most of it that bothers me is more of just like, it's just not how I would choose to do things.
Right.
So it's more bothering me because I don't have control of it. But it doesn't affect me in a way that it's like, oh my God, she's being a bad person. Or no, it's like, bro, that's just her. And like, not everything that someone does that annoys you, you have to converse about it.
Right.
You have to be like, we gotta fix this. Like, no, you have to love someone exactly as they are and live with that and love that. And those are actually the parts that make someone so beautiful, because it's just like that really is just like who they are. And it's like, it may annoy you, but then when you lack it, like us not living together for the first time in 4 years, like this homegirl don't leave me alone. Like she always touching on me. But like there's times where I'm like, oh, I miss when we lived together and she would come in my room at midnight after work for whatever reason. I was half asleep and would come bother me. Like, but I do miss those things, right? And so like, even though in the moments they may bother you, it really is what makes your relationship with that person so unique and special. It's like, why do you want to change that? So now I think like, I think we both use our friendship as like a, what do you want to say? Like a standard, I guess, when it comes to other friendships. Like, what does that mean to you, I guess, like when you're looking at your friendships? And not even, I think we're both big people of like, not our friendships are all Christian friendships, right? We very much are, we got friends everywhere. So what does that look like to you in terms of like when you evaluate like boundaries with people, or where people should be stepping up for you, or where you are okay with them not stepping up?
I think it's always having a friend that sees you. I think that is one of my biggest things. I think that when people put you in a box that they've created that's for them without seeing you, I think that's somewhere that like I start to realize like, okay, this person isn't accepting me first for the person that I am, right? They're not meeting me halfway. And so I definitely think that they're just a natural higher standard, right? We'll go to bat for each other. Like that is that. But we also hold each other accountable. Like we really do. Like there's several conversations that Maddie and I will have that are just like, hey, I'm telling you this because I'm struggling with this, or I'm telling you this because like I need somebody to like ask me about it randomly, right? Somebody that I know that I can feel safe to tell the truth. So when I do slip up or things do happen, I can tell you about it, you know? So I think it's just having those people that like see you completely and understand you completely, and that you can just trust. I think trust is such a big thing. And I think when people think of trust, they only think about like their significant other and what trusting their significant other and what that means. But I think friendships are so important to have trust, trusting these individuals, because you can't fully open up to somebody and get to those parts that like you don't want to talk about if you don't trust them. And not every friendship's like that. And I think also people have to understand that, right? So not every friendship you have is going to be this super close, like deep. Super deep, like, oh my gosh, we do everything together. And like, this is my for life or for life. Like everybody can't be your for life or for life. Like that's just the reality of it. And so like knowing where you stand with certain friendships and like, and having a mutual understanding of that. I think that a lot of people get hurt when somebody holds them to a certain caliber, but the other person doesn't. And that's not communicated. And so then they're like, oh, this hurt my feelings, or this happened. And that person's like, why did that hurt your feelings? Like, because they just didn't view the friendship the same way. So, and that comes with communicating. You have to communicate with your friends. If you sit there and let things build up and then let it explode, that's not going to fly in your relationship with your partner. Why should that fly in your friendships? Like that shouldn't have happened. You should be able to communicate with them. And if you can't, that's another thing you have to talk about, like having that conversation and wanting to work towards something with someone. Nobody wants a lazy friend. Like nobody wants a lazy partner.
No. I think it's so important. I think like confidentiality in a friendship, whether it's right, your best friend for life or someone that you see at work constantly, like I think we need to learn that trust is built on like how are we cultivating this just like intimate, confidential space, even if it's so silly of like we're just talking about like what dresses we want to wear to go out to dinner. Like it can be as simple as that, and like, hey, I'm telling you this like sin that and this temptation that I'm struggling with right now, and I need help with this. And I know that I can tell you compared to other people that I can tell because we have cultivated that environment to share, and that I know it does not leave us. Like it does not leave us. And knowing that you have to create that in your friendships to then receive what you are looking for, and that you have to be open and vulnerable with yourself to also receive that and give that, right? No one wants this one-sided relationship where they're pouring out all their secrets in their life and you're like, I feel for you.
Right.
Okay, bye.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Do you feel for me?
Exactly. It's just like you can be sympathetic, but when you are not resonating with someone, when you are also not sharing that, naturally a person is going to be very insecure because it's like, so why are you hesitating? And it's either like you are dealing with your own insecurities that I got to pray for you about, or you are low-key judging me and you're judging yourself. So you are so afraid to not even share because you don't want to be judged the way you're currently judging me.
Right.
And I think that's something a lot of people don't recognize when they're like, why do I lack the capacity to share? Or why isn't this person as deep with me as I want them to be? And it's like, how are you creating the space? And sometimes it isn't you. Sometimes the other person is, sometimes it's the other person and they don't want to be open to you. And that is their choice, and learning like, okay, this is how I like to be, but I have to protect my heart. I have to understand that this is not my best friend for life. And that's okay. And learning to choose them and love them and still have them in this community that I'm looking for. But again, there's like layers to that. Not everyone is like in your inner circle, and that's okay. That's still great. It's okay when there's the different layers of people in your life. And I think it's important to understand where you are at with people and where you have people at with you. It's like having someone who's really firm on their boundaries and still choosing love in it. Doesn't mean I don't want to talk to you. It's like, no, this is as much as like we're both doing, and that's great. And that's enough.
And I think a lot of that comes with self-awareness. Like you have to be aware of yourself, and I'm a strong believer of this, but like you have to be aware of yourself to fully be aware of other people and their actions, right? If you know what's driving you to do certain things, then you can start picking up on what's driving other people to act a certain way, talk a certain way, do certain things.
No, I think it's just so important. I think it's so important to recognize like that relationships go through things that you have to still accept that. And I think a lot of people see like issues in relationships and we're like, that's it, that's not my best friend, that's not ever. And I'm like, girl, if Issa and I said from the first time we had an issue that the relationship is over, we wouldn't have been friends after the first 6 months of knowing each other. Like that's the reality. Like and something we talk about is like, especially in college, a lot of people saw our relationship and they very much were like, oh my god, you guys are just like best friends for life, like how do I make my friendships like that? And it was like, bro, we had to keep choosing each other.
Right.
We had to keep choosing each other, and we had to like stay honest about what was hurting us, you know.
Right.
What was the truth of each side, you know.
Right.
What was happening, what was kind of causing the division, and working through. And after the first one, like, cool, you get stronger in your relationship, and then you keep going.
Yeah.
And then something else happens, and you talk about it, and you work through it. And it's again, it's choosing to work through it and acknowledge like this moment isn't the entirety of what this person is.
Right.
And also differentiating between if someone is purposely choosing hurting you and choosing to hurt you constantly, that is so different.
Right.
But if you're both
Right.
going through things, especially like when you're younger, but you're gonna go through things and you have to be willing to like work it out.
Yeah.
You know, and choose like, what is happening? Why are we acting this way? You know, this isn't our character.
Right.
I think it's knowing that. I think when things happen, people are like, oh, she's just a mean girl now. Like, and they attribute these negative characteristics, and it's like, girl, like, you know that's not the truth.
Right.
Like,
You know her.
you know her enough to know that isn't the truth. So what is actually behind what's happening? Because there
Right.
usually is something. And I think that's something that we recognized was like, we went to the root. Like, what was the root of the issue?
Right.
And then working through that.
I think one of the main things that you said that like really clicked for me was the growing part. People are gonna change, and that is just natural, right? I hope the person that we were at 18 is not the person that we are at 50. I really hope it's not the same person. And so we're gonna change, and acknowledging that change. And I think change can make a lot of people feel very uncomfortable. Like it does not always the best thing to watch people change or watch different people enter other people's lives. But I think that, you know, it comes with that self-awareness and allowing yourself to acknowledge like, okay, I'm not a fan of change, but we're going to change and we're going to be different, and things aren't going to be the same, right? As much as I would love to live in the last 4 years forever and love, it's just not like what like that's not going to happen. Right. There's things that are going to adjust and shift, and people are going to come in and out of both of our lives, and we're going to enter new environments and exit new environments and all of that. So it's just like staying faithful to each other and to our friendship. Currently we do a long distance friendship, right? I live 700 miles away. So, you know, but that doesn't change literally our friendship at all, right? We're still coming to each other. We're still talking to each other. The difference is we're not seeing each other all the time. But I think that then makes us value the time that the Lord does give us to then be with each other and be able to do things like this, you know? Or even when like you post your podcast episodes, it's like me going in and watching them multiple times, and so and listening to them multiple times, and just like showing that support from across, and just
the love.
And it takes effort from both of us. Like it can't just be one of us showing effort or the other one showing effort. We check on each other. You know, we call each other. We do these things to make sure that each of us knows that we're loved, because that's where our friendship is, and that's where what we want, and we want it to continue growing.
So I really hope that you guys are able to just make those decisions for your friendships and love people where they're at. Like Christ calls us to love each other and love ourselves as, you know, love our neighbor. You literally said it today as we were joking, but like love your neighbor as you love yourself, you know. But just build your friendships, love your friendships wherever they are in your circle.
Just invite God into your friendships all the time. It makes life a lot easier when you know that the creator of the universe is sitting in the midst of everything that you're doing, right? And it lifts a weight. It doesn't make the problem any less deep, or it doesn't hurt any less, but when you know God's in it, it makes life easier. Yeah, it really does.
No, for sure. So thank you for joining us on this episode. I'm so excited you guys were here. I can't wait for you guys to be back next week. So stay tuned, follow on all the socials, and I'll see you guys. Bye.
Bye.